Hey everyone, welcome to this full moon Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for the full moon on March 20th, Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. All right, so full moon in Virgo, it's a very important full moon. There's a lot of aspects taking place with it, but fundamentally Virgo is now this time of furthering to develop the side of ourself that is about refinement, self-improvement, maybe personal development, and fundamentally doing the work. What can we do the work with in our life to really ground what has been a very watery time? So opposite Virgo is where we have all this Pisces energy. So the balance here with this will be on practicing that still receptivity, developing our intuition, surrendering what's outside of our control with Pisces. But Virgo is going to help us ground what we do have control over, which is our self-improvement, our lives, our refinement, etc. So with this full moon, there's a lot of aspects with it. It's forming a kite formation. There's a grand trine with Mars and Pluto, so there can be some empowerment with this full moon. Great time for maybe some confidence, some action, removing obstacles, facing fears. Very much about self-empowerment with that. There's also a square up to Jupiter, so still maybe a bit of hopefulness, inspiration that we can also ground. And the full moon will be opposite up to Chiron, so maybe some healing we can do in terms of surrendering what's outside of our control with Pisces. All right, so there's this along with some other aspects, so let's take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. All right, so here's the chart for the full moon. So this chart is casted for the exact full moon. You can see here the sun and Chiron both in Pisces, and then the full moon will be at the beginning of Virgo here. So again, we are using the actual size of the constellations here. As you can see, different sizes. This does change the signs from mainstream astrology. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to check out the link down below on True Sidereal Astrology. All right, so with this full moon, it's going to be at 20:05 Eastern Time on Wednesday, March 20th, if you want to make that calculation for wherever you are in the world. But this video is for the day before and the day after. So we're going to look at the 19th, leading up to the full moon on the 20th, and then post full moon by a day on the 21st. And that's because this energy is applicable for pretty much all 3 days very strongly. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down very simply. The most important thing is that it is in Virgo. And so Virgo, the maiden, is about developing the side of ourself that is striving towards refinement of things in our life, improvement of things in our life, and the self-discipline that it takes to do that, right? So things like what takes work, what takes self-discipline, what takes a willingness to really refine ourselves. And again, it is really very much about what we do have control over. Because fundamentally, at the end of the day, if you look at life, the only thing we really have control over is ourselves. Everything outside of ourselves is, you could say, in the realm of Pisces, which is all of this energy that we've been cultivating of surrendering what's outside of our control, right? Developing greater faith, trust, but also listening to our intuition, right? Our inner guidance, our spiritual self. But Virgo is very much about that physical self, about doing the work. What can we do the work with during this full moon in our lives in terms of what we do have control over? And that can certainly be our environment, self-improvement. It could be our work, our service. It's a great time to do this. Great time to build routines, develop healthy habits. What are some physical healthy habits we can cultivate, like maybe health or diet or things like this? Again, it's all about the refinement, doing the best we can, being the best version of ourselves that we can, and cultivating the self-discipline to make that happen. All right, so great time to do a status check with this. So this is already an energy that is heightened, right? It means that 6 months ago, we started to develop this energy during the new moon of Virgo, but now we're at the halfway point of that cycle, the heightened phase. So this is about doing a status check with it. In other words, how are our Virgo qualities going? How is the Virgo qualities in our life going? All right, so doing the status check and now reintegrating this Virgo side with what has been this very receptive, intuitive Piscean side. And that's what all full moons are about, is about finding that balance between the two. They're really just two sides of the same coin. We can't have one without the other. So also remembering while we're going about this sort of physical refinement, at the same time, again, balancing that with rest, with peace, with trust, with surrender, with intuition, with creativity, with all this kind of deeper watery stuff, where the sun and where is Chiron helping balance out this energy. All right, everyone, so that's the full moon. There could even be some shifts here this middle part of the week, so it's also a great time with the status check, noticing what's cultivating in your life, what's harvested, but also what hasn't harvested, and being willing to let things go, make some shifts and changes. There's usually a bit of a pivot and shift where we can now put energy into what has been working in our life for the remainder of the cycle, for the remainder 6 months. You could even say for the next 2 weeks if it's been more immediate in the lunar month for you. All right, so that is the most fundamental side to the full moon. But like I said, there is a lot going on with it astrologically. So if you can see here, it's hard to see because there's a lot of aspects taking place just in general right now. But it's forming a kite, and it looks like a kite, and it's not totally... it's not an exact kite, but it's very close. And you can kind of see how it forms this grand trine here, this triangle, this blue triangle in the middle, and what would normally also point towards the sun and Chiron here. So this grand trine makes it very powerful and very unique in the sense that it's aspecting two very also powerful planets, a trine to Mars and a trine to Pluto. And they're also going to be trining each other exact during the full moon. So it's very supportive, right? Trines are all about support and strength, and with these planets it can feel actually quite strong. Like we can feel strong, we can feel empowered, right? So self-empowerment. This is also a great time for self-transformation with this full moon. Are there any sort of cycles or patterns we're noticing in our life that we want to break or change or transform? It's a great time with these powerful planets to face fears. Are there any? It's also like patterns, because fears are patterns, right? So breaking patterns, facing fears, removing obstacles, doing things that we normally would be afraid of. We're supported to do this with the full moon. So again, this strength, this confidence, this empowerment, very, very powerful with this full moon. These are definitely the most important aspects with it. Even though there is an opposition up to Chiron, is also important, but Chiron is a comet. It's not that personal, but also important. So Chiron in Pisces, opposite the full moon, is about healing. And so along with this full moon, it is a great time for doing some healing, particularly in the context of our deep psyche. Again, Pisces is the unconscious. It's the spiritual realm. Chiron has been helping us heal this side of ourselves to have more faith, trust, acceptance for, it's been at least a few years now. And so now with the full moon, this getting activated, great time to also do some healing perhaps. What are some things we can do to heal that side of ourselves that does want to go with the flow, does want to accept things for how it is, does want to live presently, and heal that faith, that trust, that relationship with uncertainty, right? And so great full moon to do that as well, especially because the sun is very close to Chiron here in Pisces as well. All right, everyone, so that's the most important aspects with it, but there's also a square up to Jupiter. It's nothing new. We've been experiencing the square for been at least a week now. And so with this energy, there can also be some hopefulness or possibilities with the full moon that we could be thinking about or just aware of. And so great to obviously have a bit of hopefulness, inspiration, maybe some dreams and ideals about things, but we do want to ground it. Right? We do want to make it constructive. And so how can we bring down those inspirations and turn them into something that, again, we can do the work with, whether it's intentions, action steps, or whatever it is there with that. And also Jupiter and Ophiuchus does also involve healing. So again, anything we can challenge ourselves to, face any wounds with, maybe take some action in the face of some wounds with, that we know if we do that, it'll be healing for us. Also great with that Ophiuchus energy. All right, everyone, so that's the full moon in terms of the aspects with it. So like I said, there's also some other things going on astrologically with it, but that is the most fundamental stuff I feel like for the full moon. So now let's step away from the full moon for a minute and look at some of these other aspects that we have taking place at this same time. The most important being Venus is going to be squaring up to Mars. So this is Venus, the what you could say feminine side of how we relate, and then in a clash and a bit of a square with Mars, which is the masculine side of ourself in terms of how we relate. So this can be obviously involving relationships, but fundamentally, this is this sort of clash within us between the attracting side to ourself and pursuing side to ourself, the receptive side to ourself and the assertive or active side to ourself. May even feel a little bit like a clash between what we value and what we need, right? This kind of thing. So a really good way of working with it, as is the case with all squares, is to integrate this consciously. How can we, it's first of all kind of being aware of, is there a little bit more Venus energy? Is there a little bit more Mars energy? Is there a bit of a clash? Is there a bit of kind of breaking free kind of energy, or, wanting to do something impulsively or something like this? And just being aware of it, all right? Being aware of this side of ourself, these two sides of ourself that we can integrate to be both receptive and assertive and active, right? To pursue our values while at the same time see how our values can also link up with our needs, all right? And then in relationships, it's being receptive, of course, in relationships, but then at the same time being assertive, being ourselves, pursuing our needs. So it's focusing on our needs, but also focusing on others' needs. So again, this kind of integration between the masculine and feminine we can do with this full moon, whether it's for us personally or in relationships, is a really good way of working with this square. And then it becomes very constructive, right, as a result of this. Then there is this greater receptivity when pursuing our needs. And then there's also this greater assertiveness and directness when we're in relationships or, whatever it is that we're doing there. All right, so good to be aware of that in that way. Now, this is also going to be sextiling up to Jupiter. Venus sextile Jupiter. It's nothing major with it, but there could just be a bit of maybe hopefulness again, maybe inspirations, maybe about the relating stuff or the values. And so this is just going to be available. It's nothing really much to do with it, but do know that there are, again, opportunities and inspirations that we can certainly integrate with this full moon. All right, so that's the Venus side to it. The other aspect we have is with Mercury. It's nothing major, but Mercury is going to be sextiling up to Saturn. So there is a bit of maybe grounded thinking, maybe patient thinking, maybe also grounded communication or patient communication. And so this is available. It's just kind of with all this stuff going on with the full moon, there's just this kind of grounded mind, grounded perspective on things, and it can make it quite productive when it comes to things like what we're thinking about and communicating. Now, do keep in mind, of course, Mercury is still retrograde, so it's good to still be reconsidering, reevaluating some things right now. And with Mercury right now shifting back into Aquarius this part of the week, what we'll notice going into the later part of the week and into the weekend is maybe rethinking some things involving the future, maybe involving our ideals, and even our true self. What do we need for our sense of true self to connect to that, to have freedom, spontaneity, excitement in our life, reconsidering that stuff with Mercury in Aquarius retrograde. All right, everyone, and Mars is also shifting into Taurus. I told you there was a lot going on. So Taurus, Mars could be quite self-reliant. So this is actually going to cool off a lot of energy. We've had Mars in Aries for about a month now. And so this is going to help ground a lot of what has been a lot of fiery energy mixed with that water that we've been feeling. So with this, we could just be feeling quite self-reliant, quite resourceful. It's good to take action and assert ourselves in a way that's one step at a time and just slowly and steadily in a nice, secure, grounded, self-reliant sort of fashion. All right. So that's it, everyone. Lots going on this part of the week. Most important thing, of course, being the full moon. This is the heightened part of the lunar month. Great time to do a status check, maybe make some shifts and changes with whatever awareness we do gain at this time. Specifically in the context of Virgo, how can we further develop our refinement side, our self-discipline, and to do the work with things to balance out what has been more of the etheric energy of Pisces, and finding that balance between what we do have control over and working on that, and letting go of what we don't have control over and surrendering that. With the kite formation, we have some empowerment with Mars and Pluto. It can be very empowering. very strong, very like we can, do things we normally wouldn't do, let's say, and just feel very strong and empowered with this grand trine. And then the opposition up to Chiron is a bit of healing energy. Great time to do the healing, especially when it comes to surrendering what is outside of our control, reestablishing that relationship with the divine process of things. And the square to Jupiter, great time to listen to those inspirations. They are certainly out there, and just ground it, take it one step at a time. All right, so everyone, have a fantastic full moon. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time for the daily forecast. Take care.